Chapter 1: The Heavy Clouds. The morning did not start well for Emma. When she woke up, the sky was already dark. There were no birds singing outside her window. Instead, there was the low, deep sound of thunder. Emma looked at her alarm clock. It was 7 o'clock. She felt tired. She felt like she wanted to stay in bed all day and sleep. She stood up slowly and walked to the kitchen. She looked in the mirror. Her eyes were a bit red. She felt a little bit sick. "I think I am feeling a bit under the weather today," she whispered to herself. She didn't have a fever, but her body felt heavy and her mind was full of clouds, just like the sky outside. Emma worked as an accountant for a big company. Her job was all about numbers, and more numbers. Every day, she sat in front of a computer screen for 8 hours. Her boss was a man named Mr. Thompson. He was not a bad man, but he was always in a hurry. He always wanted the reports finished quickly. "Emma, I need this by 5 o'clock, he would say. "It should be a piece of cake for you." But for Emma, it was not a piece of cake. It was stressful. It was boring. She felt like she was a machine, not a person. She wanted something different. She wanted a bit of color in her gray life. Chapter 2: The Storm Begins. Emma put on her gray coat and picked up her black umbrella. She stepped outside. The air was wet and cold. She walked to the bus stop. The streets were busy. Cars were splashing water as they drove past. People were running, trying to stay dry. When she arrived at her office, the lights were too bright. The sound of people typing on keyboards was everywhere. Click, click, click. Emma sat at her desk. She started working on a long report. She looked at the numbers, but she couldn't focus. She kept looking at the window. At noon, the sky became almost black. Then the rain really started. It was not just rain, it was a storm. The water hit the office windows so hard it sounded like small stones. Emma felt a strange desire. She didn't want to be in the office. She didn't want to look at the computer. "I need a break," she thought. "I need to go outside, even if it is raining." She took her umbrella and walked out of the building. She didn't have a plan. She just walked. The rain was beautiful in a strange way. It washed the dust away from the trees. It made the city look clean and new. Chapter 3: The Secret Cafe. After walking for 10 minutes, Emma was very wet. Her umbrella was not enough to protect her from the strong wind. She saw a small street she had never seen before. It was a narrow street with old buildings and wooden doors. At the end of the street, there was a small sign. It was made of wood and had a picture of a steaming cup on it. The sign said, "The Rain Garden Cafe." Emma liked the name. She walked toward the door. As she got closer, she heard soft music playing inside. It was the sound of a piano. It was slow and peaceful. She pushed the door open. A small bell rang above the door. Tinkle, tinkle. Inside, the cafe was warm and cozy. There were only 5 tables. The walls were covered with old books and small paintings. There was a smell of cinnamon and roasted coffee beans. It was the best smell Emma had ever smelled. There were no bright lights here. Instead, there were small candles on the tables and a soft yellow lamp behind the counter. Behind the counter stood an old man with a white beard and a green apron. He looked up and smiled at Emma. "Welcome to the Rain Garden," he said. His voice was deep and kind. "You look like you have traveled a long way through the storm." Emma smiled back. For the first time that day, she felt her heart become lighter. "Yes," she said. "I think I am lost, but I'm happy I found this place." Chapter 4: The Golden Cup. "Sit down anywhere you like," the old man said. "I will bring you something special. On a day like this, a person needs more than just coffee. They need a little bit of magic." Emma sat at a small table near the window. She watched the rain running down the glass. It looked like tiny rivers. She took off her wet coat and placed it on the back of her chair. The old man came to her table. He was carrying a beautiful ceramic cup. It was blue with small white stars on it. He placed it in front of Emma. "This is our special rain blend," he whispered. "Drink it slowly. Listen to the piano. Forget about the numbers. Forget about the office. Emma picked up the cup. It was warm against her cold hands. She took a sip. The coffee was perfect. It was not too bitter and not too sweet. It had a hint of chocolate and something else, something she couldn't name. It felt like memories. It felt like home. As she drank, she looked around the cafe. At another table, a young man was drawing in a notebook. He looked very focused. In the corner, an old woman was reading a book and drinking tea. Everyone seemed peaceful. Everyone seemed to be hiding from the world for a little while. Emma felt her stress melting away. The report from Mr. Thompson didn't seem important anymore. The gray city didn't seem so gray. She realized that she was not feeling under the weather anymore. The coffee and the quiet music were making her feel alive again. Chapter 5. The Mystery Guest. Emma was halfway through her blue cup of coffee when the bell above the door rang again. Tinkle, tinkle. A man walked into the cafe. He was tall and wore a long brown coat. He did not have an umbrella, so his hair was very wet. He didn't look annoyed by the rain. In fact, he was smiling. He shook the water off his coat and walked straight to the counter. The old man with the white beard nodded at him. "The usual, Thomas?" "Yes, please, Henry," the man replied. The man named Thomas turned around and looked for a place to sit. Every table was full except for the one next to Emma. He walked over slowly. "Excuse me," he said politely. "May I sit here? The cafe is quite busy today because of the storm." Emma looked up. Thomas had bright, intelligent eyes. "Of course," she said. "Please have a seat." Thomas sat down. He put a small leather-bound book on the table. It looked old and well-loved. He noticed Emma's blue cup with the stars. "Ah, the rain blend," he said. "Henry makes the best coffee in the city. It's like a secret medicine for a gray day, don't you think?" Emma smiled. "I agree. I was feeling quite under the weather this morning, but this place is changing my mood." Thomas laughed gently. "This cafe has a way of doing that. It is a place where time stops. Outside, everyone is running. Everyone is stressed. But inside here, we just breathe." Chapter 6. A Different Perspective. Henry brought Thomas a large white mug. Thomas took a deep breath of the steam. "So," Thomas said, looking at Emma, "what brings an accountant to the rain garden on a Tuesday afternoon?" Emma jumped slightly. "How do you know I am an accountant?" Thomas pointed to a small calculator sticking out of her bag and a paper with rows of numbers. "The numbers gave you away. You look like someone who spends a lot of time making sure everything adds up to 100%. Emma sighed and leaned back in her chair. "You were right. I spend my whole life with numbers. Today, I just couldn't do it anymore. My boss told me a report was a piece of cake, but it felt like a mountain. I felt like I was disappearing." Thomas opened his old book. The pages were yellow. "I understand," he said. "I'm a clockmaker. I spend my days with tiny gears and springs. If I make one small mistake, the clock stops. It can be very stressful. But then I realized something important." "What did you realize?" Emma asked, feeling curious. "I realized that we are not the machines we use. A clock must be perfect, but a human doesn't have to be. We are allowed to be slow. We are allowed to sit in a cafe and watch the rain. The world will not end if you finish your report tomorrow instead of today." Emma looked at her coffee. She had never thought about it that way. She always felt that she had to be perfect, just like the numbers in her spreadsheets. Chapter 7. The Message in the Book. They talked for a long time. They talked about books, about the city, and about how the rain sounds different in the forest than it does on the streets. Emma forgot all about her office. She forgot about Mr. Thompson. For the first time in years, she felt like she was having a real conversation. Suddenly, the rain started to slow down. The loud drumming on the windows stopped. A small ray of sunlight pushed through the gray clouds and hit the floor of the cafe. Thomas stood up. "The storm is over," he said. "I must go back to my shop. I have an old grandfather clock that needs my help." "It was very nice to meet you, Thomas," Emma said. She felt a little sad to see him leave. "It was a pleasure, Emma," he replied. He picked up his leather book, but then he stopped. He looked at Emma for a moment, then he opened the book and tore out a small piece of paper from the back. He wrote something on it and folded it. He placed the small piece of paper on the table. "Don't open this until I leave," he said with a wink. He put on his coat, waved to Henry at the counter, and walked out of the door. The bell rang one last time. Tinkle, tinkle. Emma sat in silence. The cafe was quiet now. The young man with the notebook was gone. The old woman in the corner was gone too. Only Henry was there, cleaning some cups behind the counter. Emma picked up the piece of paper. Her heart was beating a little faster. She unfolded it slowly. On the paper, there were only 5 words written in beautiful, clear handwriting. Life is not a report. Chapter 8. The Return. Emma stayed in the cafe for another 10 minutes. She looked at those 5 words. Life is not a report. She realized that she was defining herself by her work. She was Emma the accountant, not Emma the person. She stood up and put on her coat. It was mostly dry now. She went to the counter to pay. "How much do I owe you, Henry?" she asked. Henry smiled. "For the coffee, $5. For the magic, that is free." Emma paid and walked out. The street was shining. Everything was wet, but the sun was bright. The air smelled like fresh earth. She walked back to her office. When she entered, the lights didn't seem so bright anymore. The clicking of the keyboards didn't sound so loud. She walked to her desk. Mr. Thompson was standing there. "Emma, where have you been?" he asked. "I was worried. Is the report finished? Is it a piece of cake?" Emma looked at him. She didn't feel nervous. She didn't feel afraid. She smiled, a real, confident smile. "The report is not finished yet, Mr. Thompson," she said clearly. "I am going to finish it now, and it will be excellent. But I took a break because I was feeling under the weather. I needed a cup of coffee and a new perspective." Mr. Thompson looked surprised. He opened his mouth to say something, but then he stopped. He saw the look in Emma's eyes. "Oh, I see. Well, okay then. Just get it done when you can." Emma sat down. She opened her computer. She started to type. But this time she wasn't a machine. She was a woman who knew the secret of a small cafe in the rain. She knew that she was important, not just the numbers. And on the corner of her desk, hidden under her notebook, was a small piece of paper that said, "Life is not a report."